across the country are hoping for something different and something better than what they have. And when I think about Hamilton, when I look at the extraordinary, rich experience of this city, a city with tremendous heart that's been through some tough times, some great times, that's transformed itself from a manufacturing hub towards being a much more research and knowledge economy hub, still with challenges in the future. But this is exactly the kind of community, exactly the kind of city that we have to start focusing on, not just as a party, but as a country, if we're going to make sure that Canada becomes strong again. When we say a phrase like that, Canada becomes strong, well, what makes a country strong? A strong economy? For sure. But how do we define a strong economy? Is it a wealthy 1%? Is it having a great trade balance? Is it having a percentage of growth, a growth rate? Is it having a GDP that is, properly robust? Having a strong economy, looking over the past decades, looking over the past centuries, looking over the recent story of growth in China, India, South Korea, Brazil, it's a story of having a strong middle class. That's what makes a strong economy. Having a strong middle class means having a ladder of hope for the less fortunate. Something to achieve, along with an economy strong enough to provide the services and the boost that sometimes the less fortunate need. But it also means, on the other end, making sure that we're providing a great, robust market for our businesses. To be able to have a strong economy, it goes through a strong middle class. And unfortunately, the story of income inequality that seems to be talked about an awful lot in the news these days and by politicians is not so much a story of what's happening on the ends, on the edges of the income spectrum. It's about what's happening in the middle. To hardworking Canadians who are finding it harder to get by on salaries that just don't seem to be increasing enough, debt load that's increasing, costs that are rising, and people wondering for the first time in generations if perhaps their kids aren't going to automatically have it slightly better than we have now. That idea, that reversal of the idea of progress has got an awful lot of people worrying, and it's got an awful lot of us saying, how do we turn this around? Where do we put our focus? And how do we build a stronger Canada? Well, it happens by understanding that the key to what makes Canada great is not the political class, but the middle class. It is the middle class that is the key to Canada's strength and unity. Because it's more than just opportunity, and it's more than just wealth. It's understanding that the key to our Canadian experience is knowing that when people in Alberta do well, it creates jobs here in Hamilton. When people at MAC innovate and create, it leverages wealth into the Atlantic provinces and around the world. And that we are all in this together. Too often now, we're hearing from the political parties in Ottawa, the other two, that they're picking and choosing regions that they want to help, or industries that they think need their help, or groups of people that need their help. You have Stephen Harper put a big X over Quebec and the Atlantic provinces. He's playing up to one industry and promising everyone else that the wealth will trickle down eventually. That doesn't work. We've seen that not work over decades. And the NDP, unfortunately, has decided that being the flip side of the coin to Stephen Harper is their best path to power. And they've gotten someone who's put an X over Alberta and is deciding to run in Ontario and Quebec. That is playing up the politics of envy and mistrust of the successful. Well, who, I ask you, Who will speak for all of Canada? Who will speak to all of Canada? Only one country, only one party has done that right. When the Liberal Party was at its best, it spoke to and for all Canadians. Unfortunately, we've gotten to a place where we've forgotten that. Where the Liberal Party is somehow waiting for Canadians to wake up and realize that Mr. Harper just isn't a very nice person, and therefore people should vote for the Liberal Party again. Well, you know what? He may not be, but I don't want to engage with the politics of personality. I think, attacking people individually is not the way to build politics. As much as I disagree with Mr. Harper and Mr. McKell, I honor her service to the country as much as I disagree with it. However, as soon as you start picking and choosing, micro-targeting certain policies for this community group, choosing to play up this generational divide, that region of the country against this one, this linguistic group, this religious group, look for those strategic elements that are just going to get you enough votes to get elected. Well, you know what the politics of division, of fear, of envy, of mistrust? Here's a dirty secret about politics. Those kinds of politics, they can get you elected. They can even give you a majority. He's just also proof you can't govern worth a damn once you get elected on those because you are at odds with one of the essential elements of Canada. That we are a country, yes, of divisions, of differences from coast to coast to coast. But instead of seeing those differences as a source of weakness, we understand that they are an extraordinary source of strength for our country.
Hear, hear.
And that's what we have to build on. That's the challenge we're all facing. Our capacity to reach out from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the Great Lakes to the High Arctic, our capacity to engage with Canadians in a way that we never have before is what's most important. But the Liberal Party from time to time still falls into the trap of saying, people will wake up and come back to us. But you know what that kind of thinking has gotten us? Well, in 2000, we had 170 seats. The election after that, we had about 130. The election after that, 100. The election after that, 77. The election after that, this past one, 34. I'm sorry, that's a straight line and it ends up in one seat in the next election because I'm not losing Papineau. The type that has always characterized Hamilton, for example, is the only thing that's going to get the Liberal Party to move forward once again. It's the only thing that's going to get Canada to move forward once again. And that's what we are all focused on. You know, last week, someone looked at all the newspaper coverage and turned to me and said, "Oh boy, Justin, Stephen Harper must be really afraid of you." And I thought about it and I realized that no, Stephen Harper is not afraid of me. Stephen Harper is afraid of you. Sense that in his policies, in his decisions, in his style of government, he doesn't trust Canadians. And the idea that Canadians from coast to coast to coast could be standing up and saying, we deserve better, we deserve more, we want to be part of shaping our future, we want to be part of deciding how we're going to unfold as a great unfinished project of a country. We want to make sure our voices are heard, our dreams are responded to, And our future is in good hands. And you know what? That option doesn't come from an ideological party of the left. It doesn't come from an ideological party of the right. It doesn't come from anyone who chooses to divide Canadians for short-term electoral gain. It only happens when Canadians pull together once again under the only party that is there to speak to, for, and with all Canadians, the Liberal Party of Canada. Will you join me for the change we need?